shoveling for me, but it was still, it still had to happen, every time it snowed. So.
Wow, that's so. David, you're down there in Houston, or just outside of Houston.
Yep.
And you've got. I want to get into this. I want people to hear your story because it's really inspiring. This is one of the biggest hurdles that a lot of people face in this world is, what you've conquered. And so I'm looking forward to letting you have an opportunity to share what you've managed to do and that kind of thing. And so to start with, I'd like to ask you how you got involved, how you ran into the Kong family, and why you decided that it was something that was a good idea. And were you a skeptic, and how long has it been? Just kind of give everybody a brief rundown as to how you got involved, and
Sure.
what happened.
Well, basically about 2.5 years ago, a friend of mine told me about this, this water system, and so I said, well, I don't know. Really, I just took him at his word. I didn't really do a lot of research coming in. I actually did a lot more research once I got in. But first of all, I just took his word for what he was telling me, and I said, okay, yeah, let's do this, and I bought my machine, and I got a K8, and I got involved, and so then it was sort of like then I called a few friends, and I ended up selling a couple K8s to each of my friends, and that was sort of how we kind of got the whole ball rolling. This was like in September of the year, and so then by the time we got into sort of Thanksgiving season, all of a sudden nobody wanted to do any business around Thanksgiving, between Thanksgiving and I figured it out over the last couple of years. Nobody really wants to do any business between Thanksgiving and January 1st. It's like, oh, we're in the holidays, So it was like, okay. So I started doing research, and I got onto PubMed.gov and some of these other sites, and I started putting together a ton of research on, the electrolysis reduced water. And then I started learning that there was a lot of science behind this, and and what was backing it all up, and so on. And I found it quite fascinating. And so now I really have this treasure trove of research that can help people. But go forward about another 18 months, and I got to a meeting with Enagic in Vegas, and I was listening to some speakers. I was still then at that time over 300 pounds, and so I was listening to these guys, and they were talking. One of the guys, and he was talking about how people can lose weight drinking Kangen water. And I looked at it and I go, well, I've had a lot of great things that have happened for me. First off, I used to get a lot of cramps in my legs, and those all disappeared within days of starting to drink this water, because I was now getting hydrated at the cellular level. But and I was getting cramps so bad that I actually my calves had cramps so bad that the cramp wouldn't release a number of times, and to the point where I got my calves bruised from the I was breaking blood vessels. That's how bad it was. So anyway, but I haven't had a cramp in my legs since I started being on the water. That's how impactful it was. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of other really major changes. I go to this meeting, as I was saying, and I talked to this speaker, he was saying, this can help you lose weight. And I go, well, it hasn't worked for me. And then he says, well, how much water are you drinking? And that was kind of the key for me to start my program of having lost 100 pounds. And because the first thing he said was, you've got to start drinking half of your body weight in ounces per day. So I looked at that and I go, well, okay, that's, how do I figure that out? So I worked it out and I go, well, all right, for me right now, I started drinking 10 pints of water a day. And so last March, I started drinking 10 pints of water a day. And, not every day you try, some days you miss, but, basically it was, I was on that regime. Well, 6 months into the program of that, I lost, significant amount of weight. But that's when, as I told you, I found another system to go along with this, a nutrition system that put it on supercharge. And from that point forward, I just absolutely, went from being this guy that was 333 pounds to now below 232. I didn't weigh in this morning. So, I could be 230, whatever. But anyway, and so, that's 100 pounds dropped. And that's my story. And this system I'm on is actually that I'm on now, in addition to drinking the water, it is really important for the future, because what I've realized is that none of us are getting the proper nutrition. I mean, water is great, right? We're a high percentage of water, so it's very good that everybody gets the right amount of water. And I've learned that that's a big big part of the equation. However, in addition to that, if you don't get the proper nutrition in your body, you just have a big thing missing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so with this nutrition system that I'm on, what this is a nutrient dense superfood. What I mean by that is that when you are substituting some of the meals that are not giving us the proper nutrition with this nutrient rich, nutrient dense superfood, what this means is that you then are giving your body everything it needs in terms of vitamins, minerals, proteins, everything it needs to be able to do what it does. And, just like with the water, we always tell people that when you're on the water, it allows the body to heal itself. Okay, so the water doesn't actually do anything for us, except that it allows the body to do what it needs to do, because the body knows how to correct the problems it has. Well, that's also the same, but with putting together the right nutrition. Same thing. When you have the right nutrition going in your body, the right water going in your body then can create the perfect environment. And over the last year, I've experienced this same situation in my own body. Is I'm going from being in a place where I was morbidly obese to a point where I'm approaching a point where
homeostasis.
I'm getting to point. I wouldn't say that I've made it yet, because I still believe that I have to release another 30 plus pounds to get where I really need to be. But that's okay. I'm on the journey, and I realize that it's here's a thing I like to say is the whole hang on, I just was going to bring it up. What do I have here? Because I want to read it correctly. Yeah, here. Small daily improvements are the key to staggering long-term results. and I really believe that to be the fact. You know, you have, it's what little things are you doing today that are going to change over the long term. And the other thing is, you know, people overestimate what they can do in a week, but they underestimate what they can do in a year. And so the thing is, sometimes people look at it and they go like, "Wow, man, I don't know, how much could I accomplish if I did this for a week?" Well, maybe not a lot, you know, because a week isn't a very long time. But if you look at it for a year, well, you can drop 100 pounds in a year. It's not. I can show you. I've done it. It's not a problem. So you know, people just have to get their head around that idea. The other thing is, then with regard to the business side, I also realized the same thing with regard to, you know, trying to develop a residual income, and you know, somebody has a phone call. Anyway, and so what I realized was that you know, residual income is also like this. You know, it's like if you want to make you want to earn residual income. First of all, in the past, I just to give you a bit of background, I wrote a best-selling book, and I learned a little bit about residual income when I wrote this book. Because once I had it written, I started getting, you know, checks every month from the residual income that I made on the book. Of course, with a book, it has a lifespan. It goes for a while, and then once its life is up, you either have to write another book, which I did. And then the cycle starts again. But the cool thing about the network marketing business is that you can build residual income and it doesn't have to end. So what happens is you start something, you do the work now, and you can get paid for a long time. In other words, what happens is you build something over 2 to 3 years, and that 2 to 3 years can then impact into the future for the rest of your life. And so, you know, now that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm doing. And for any of the viewers you have, JJ, if anybody wants to contact me about, you know, the nutrition program I'm on, I'm happy to tell them more details. We won't lay them out here on your show, but you know, have them send me a message, and you know, put up my contact information so they know how to get me on Facebook Messenger, or even they can call or text me.
Yeah, well, you know, David, that's a big part of what we're doing here. And at the end of the show, I really want you to give everybody the information. I want you to tell them whatever you want to tell them about that, because yes, I want you know, whatever we can do to help people here, we want to do it. And it's a lot bigger than just Kong's water, because we believe that Kong's water is the most important component, but we also understand that there are other components. There's mental components, there's nutritional components, and that kind of stuff as well. And we have people here that come into this show who have results, and they need to share those stories and share how they got those results. I definitely want you to share that information towards the end here. And you know, that's really important.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to JJ, how to share this picture, but I want people to be able to see
Yeah,
this.
I wanted to get to that because I know you wanted
Okay.
to do that because I think that's a big part of your story. I think people need to see this. And so Sean knows how to do this. Can you help David work through sharing his screen? I need to give him shared potential.
So do I just hit this share button?
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see what I can do. Okay, there it is.
There you go.
Oh, is it up there?
See, that's what
There it
I want to
is.
talk. I want to ask you further about that. In the process of that, a lot of people get so overwhelmed and intimidated. 100 pounds, it almost sounds like surreal.
I know, right? But
Understand that process of what you went through, if you would, please, because that's no small feat. I mean, you go from being pretty stout to being pretty svelte in a year's time.
yeah.
And yeah, that's a compelling picture right there. Can you kind of give us an idea of the process you went through? Did it do anything? Did it make you cranky? Did it, in the process of you going through all that, what were some of the side effects? Maybe just touch on just that process.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I've had a couple people do that.
Okay, Sean. Yeah, that the whole deal was that I didn't. For me, it wasn't like a big formal start or anything else. In fact, actually, I'd had limited success in trying to lose weight in over years as an adult, because or as an aging adult. As a young man in my 30s, I dropped weight before, because I'd been 285. I touched 285 a number of times, and then I was able to drop 100 pounds and get down to 185. But this was back in when I was let me think, probably 32 years old or something like that. So, but then after 45 years old, anything I tried just wouldn't happen, right? So the first thing was that once I got on the water, I had, the first thing was I was getting properly hydrated, right? And so
David,
that was.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick, but you want to unshare now that everybody's seen this picture, just because we're getting a reverberation feedback that you're
okay.
twice.
Sure. Okay, so
Unshare.
stop share. There. Is that better?
I'm sorry to interrupt you like that, but yeah. So
okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so anyway, so then the first thing was getting the proper hydration, and then when I got the advice from the nutrition guy who was involved with Enagic, he said I wasn't drinking enough water, and that was the biggest change to start with. Was I really didn't make any other changes in my diet, in my exercise, anything to start with. Because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that when you're over 300 pounds, the very first thing you need to do is consider what's going in your body, because you're not going to go and start running. There's no way. You're not going to start doing a lot of strenuous physical activity. In fact, the very first step for people that are that kind of weight is to realize that 80% of what affects their situation is what goes in their mouth. Only 20% at that level is your physical activity. So when you understand that, then it becomes the first thing is when you realize, okay, it's what goes in my mouth. I start off with just a water change, but it was, again, once I was in the program, or once I was on the water regime for 6 months, I then encountered the nutritional system that I'm on. And once I got on that, like I said, it was supercharged. The weight came off, everything changed in terms of my whole physicality. So I don't know if that answered your question. I kind of got off on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, that's the whole deal. It was a combination of the water, the nutritional system, and that's where I am today. Now promoting the nutritional system as well as the water.
Yeah,
Can you touch base real quick, if you would, on how the water might have facilitated that nutritional system? I mean, did you notice a difference? Pretty compelling.
Well,
I mean, okay. Water's.
Sure. Well, one of the things is that with the nutritional system, I never used it without the water. So I really can't say, how it impacted, the system more effectively. However, the guy that got me on the nutritional system, he made a good point right from the start, and that was that some of the products that I'm using on this program require me to mix them with water. And of course, there was no question for me which water I was going to mix them with. Right. And so I've been using the Kangen water, ever since I've been on that product, and so that's part of the deal. But yeah, I guess does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, and the reason I ask is because a lot of times I've talked to a lot of people that they take supplements, they do this stuff, they're taking these different powders and enzymes and probiotics and different things of that nature, and they're not necessarily seeing what they're seeing, and they're not using Kangen. Yet the ones that I've been able to get to incorporate Kangen at the foundation of the nutritional stuff, they just see a lot more effectiveness. And so I wasn't sure, but that makes sense. I mean, if you had Kangen by the time you were saddling up at the dinner table with that stuff, you're going to obviously use that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just was kind of going to have you speak to that a little bit, and I think you did.
I really don't have for myself a comparison to using the nutritional product without the water, because I had the water in advance. So I would, so I didn't, there really isn't that same separation as you're.
No, right on.
One thing that I'd love to bring up in this particular case, at this point, is we just recently kind of touched on this subject in what we call Kong's Lab, where we get in and use an ORP meter and do some testing on some things. And there's a company out there, I've done this a bunch of times, because there's a bunch of network marketing companies out there that sell their brand or their part of the nutritional system, weight loss, energy drinks, that kind of thing. And we came in and we did some ORP testing using regular water coming out of the tap of my house. And I have some of the best water there is in the world. It comes right down off the mountain, goes down into a deep well aquifer, comes up into the house, doesn't get a single thing in it. No chlorine, no fluoride, none of that stuff. Because we own our own little water company here in this little enclave where I live. So we did these tests, and you take these powders and these things and you put them in with regular water, and it actually increases the positive ORP of it. And you and I both know from the research that we're doing that if it's got a positive ORP, it's not a good thing for you. And then when you took this exact same product and mixed it with Kangen 9.5 water, it took that negative, turned it to a negative ORP in the 200 to 300s. And so it literally took this product that wasn't actually good for you to be putting in your body, even in spite of what people were saying about it. And all of a sudden it turned it into something that is good. And so our motto around here is that Kong makes everything better. And so, it might be fun, David, sometime down the road here to do a little venture from Kong's Lab with some of your stuff that you're using, and give you, or you could even just do it yourself if you've got an ORP meter. You can just run it through the test. Use regular water, use Kong, and look at the difference. The ORP meter doesn't lie. And so that's an interesting little aspect of things. And like you were saying right at the beginning, how you'd been using Kong's water and it was helping, it was working. But then all of a sudden, when you added this nutritional factor to it, that it exploded things. And it really did, because, you know, there's so many people out there that have all these different systems, these different nutritional products. And I'm always reaching out to them and telling them, hey, there's one thing you're missing here. There's one little key ingredient that you're missing.
Well, it's just the solvent.
What was that, Sean?
It's just the proper solvent. The thing talking with Shan Stratton, in his whole assessment, that you're getting 6 times more effective utilization, absorption, as opposed to just consumption. And I think to some degree that's what Mr. Voth is speaking on, just in the matter of what we're dealing with. If you get the right combination of stuff with the will and all that, you can achieve what he's achieved. I'm blown away. May I ask, how old are you? Is that okay? You're not a lady.
In about 2 weeks, I'll be 61.
God bless you.
61 years young, baby.
At that stage. That's amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing. And obviously, you had a lot of the right factors in play, but just to be able to do that and go for it and see the results and just continue on in that, you had to have been just feeling healthier and a horse as time went on, as opposed to back when you were tipping over the 300-pound mark, right?
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, and I guess I keep going back to it, but the sort of the biggest thrill I have is the fact that I was able to do this so easily at my age, because up till this point, anything I would have tried would have been hard and painful. And I mean, it was at 333 pounds, just going for a short walk was a hell of a job. And I was, and my wife is quite athletic, and she does a lot of exercise, and she's a very healthy individual, and she'd always want me to go for a walk. Okay, and that's good. We used to, sort of, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years ago, we used to go for some pretty long walks, and she used to always say, well, we used to do this. And I was like, yeah, well, and then I would come back to her saying, well, my research has proven that really we really need to do is about 20 minutes. So we don't really need to do these big walks. And she goes, well, okay, let's just at least do 20 minutes. And it was all that she could do to get me to go out and do, a walk that would last, 20 minutes. And it was, and I tell you what, I got back from those walks, and I mean, I was like, it was all I could do. It was like heavy, hard, heavy sweating, heavy breathing. Man, I was exhausted, just from that. Well, of course, those days are now behind me.
Long gone.
Yeah, and it's just, in fact, actually, a buddy of mine came over, and we were doing something on the second floor, and he said, "Holy crap!" He said, "I don't. How did he put it? Something like, I don't regret, having moved to a place that doesn't have steps." And I was like, and it was, and I said to him, I said, steps. Oh yeah, steps. I said, I don't even think about it anymore. But I'll tell you what, one of the things before we got Kangen water was we were drinking bottled water. And I had to haul up this flight of steps, to get these bottles up here, right? And man, that was a lot of work, just hauling up these bottled water, And now, of course, I don't have to do that. But also, now going up the stairs, it's like, I don't even think about it. I just walk up the stairs. Think about this. Imagine this. Okay, you probably haven't been at the kind of weight I was at, but check this out. A year ago, I weighed what I am now plus 100 pounds, which, if you imagine, you are holding 2 sacks of 50 pounds each of potatoes. And you got to carry that with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
And every time you stand up from a chair, you're going to have to push with your arms and your legs and everything to get up. And then when you have to go up a flight of stairs, you have to be carrying 2 bags of potatoes with you when you're going up the stairs. It's a big difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in fact, actually, it's very interesting. I published a photo, as I do with my little updates, about how things are progressing. And a gal that I met some time ago, a close friend of my wife's, said that when she first met me, she only weighed 100 pounds. And so we were actually having a little conversation online on Facebook, and it was sort of like, gee, I dropped you. In 1 year, I dropped you off my back, and we had a bit of a laugh, but it was like, that's the deal. When you drop 100 pounds, you're actually dropping a small person.
Wow. So I've got another question, and this is
Okay.
part of what what we usually get to here, but I think it's going to be interesting to hear your story in this regard. You weighed a bunch, you dropped that 100-pound person off your back.
Yep.
And what other kinds of being, a lot of people that are 300 plus pounds, they don't just have the problem of being overweight. They have other issues as well that are part of their life, be it
Right.
diabetes or whatever it may be, high blood pressure, things like that. What can you drop on us about that part of things? Did you have any other issues that you were?
Okay, so one of the cool things was that I had not yet developed any of these other problems. Like I hadn't yet developed diabetes. I was sort of borderline, what they called the borderline in terms of where my blood sugar level was at, but I was not diabetic. And some of these other things, my tests always came back very good for other things like kidney function and so on. Now I did, and it was even and it's been for some time. I did have high blood pressure, and I was on medication. Since then, I'm on 50% of the medication, and actually I just haven't been back for another checkup. They may want to be taking me off the medication at this point. I don't know. We'll see. I'm planning in the next months to go for another test. But all the other tests, I was doing quite well. But I can tell you one thing about Kangen water in terms of physicality. My wife she had been diagnosed with high cholesterol, and they always wanted to put her on statin drugs, right? But she had done some research, and she realized that statins are not good for you. They're worse than the result. In fact, one of her brothers was on statin drugs, and he died of a heart attack. So really, it wasn't the solution. So she stayed off of it. Okay. And she kept fighting with the doctors that she wasn't going to do. So, but after being on Kangen water for a year, she goes in for blood tests, and she's actually fixing to go back in again for a blood test again now. With her test last March was, it came back that all of her cholesterol readings were normal. And the only thing she can put it down to, she's still doing the same amount of exercise, which she religiously does. She eats the very same way. She still has the same amount of wine. but the only thing she can put it down to is the fact that she was on the Kangen water regime over that year, and her cholesterol numbers were normalized within 1 year of drinking Kangen water. And like I said, she's very shortly coming up to another test. But, you know, we don't expect that test will be any different, you know, because she's been on that program. Plus, she's also got on our nutritional, on the same nutritional program I'm on, which is the nutrient-dense superfood. And she hates to weigh herself, so she doesn't, but she measures herself. And so she's down what she calls 2 dress sizes in like 2 months. She only started it like 2 months ago, and in 2 months she's down 2 dress sizes. And so it, you know, but on the water, she didn't lose any weight, but she was able to at least normalize her cholesterol. Yeah. So going back to, you know, what's going on inside my body, the biggest change for me was just, you know, getting past cramping, because going back in time, as a young person, okay, I'm talking about in my teens, I was a weightlifter. And when I say weightlifter, I'm not talking about bodybuilder. I was involved in the Olympic weightlifting program. Okay. What means, you know, if for those that don't know, there's 2 movements. One is called the clean and jerk, and the other one is the snatch, which is pulling the weight from the floor to overhead in one motion. And so I was involved in that regime. And in the process, you do a lot of muscle building to be able to do that, and a lot of squats and a lot of lower body exercise. So I had got to the point where my thighs had grown to 34 inches each.
Good Lord.
And my calves were over 20 inches each. Okay, so what happens is that even as I aged, a lot of that muscle never atrophied. But without proper hydration, that was where we were getting involved in having all this cramping and so on getting involved, you know. And so you know, once I got the proper hydration, it doesn't matter that I've got these large muscles, because, you know, they're getting properly atrophied, or sorry, properly hydrated, they don't cramp. So that you know, hopefully that answers your question as far as that goes. But as far as, you know, anything else internal, I didn't like I said, I didn't get diabetes, or I didn't have diabetes, or I didn't have any of these other issues yet. But obviously, my doctor was concerned about it, because it was kind of a wake-up call for me, you know. When I first, you know, went in, well, I say first, but on a day once they'd switched over, I guess, to the you know, to having all the patient records on a website portal. Okay, I went in after I had gotten a checkup, and I went into my my portal at the clinic, and the doctor had put me, you know, actually described my condition as, I don't know if she put morbidly obese or severely obese or something like that. And it was at that point I realized, man, I got to do something, because if I don't do something, you know, the next thing will be, you know, dude died, you know. So that was what it was for me. That was the biggest wake up call, was that. It's amazing too, now that I've dropped 100 pounds, I see people differently than I did before. Now, I love people. It doesn't matter, you know, if they want to be fat, fine, you know. But I now feel that it's my duty to reach out to them,
Right.
and say, you know what? There's a solution. Have a look at me before. Have a look at me now. Like the picture I had up there from a few minutes ago. And if you're interested in learning about, you know, how I did this, I'm happy to tell you, because that's my journey now, is to tell people there's a solution. And the other thing that you know, a lot of people think is it's going to be hard. And that was a lot of my own thought earlier when I told you about the fact that sort of walking around the block was hard. Well, you know, now I can tell people that if you do this right, it's not hard. It's just a matter of going out and doing what I'm going to tell you how to do, because 80% of your journey is going to be what goes in your mouth.
Yeah.
And if you'll listen to me about what to do in terms of what goes in your mouth, then in a year from now, everything can be different.
Yes. That is so powerful. And my bet is that there's going to be plenty of people out there who want to hook up with you.
Sure.
And this thing's going to get recorded. It's getting recorded. It's going to go on YouTube, and then I'm going to upload it to the Kong family channel. And then I'm going to send you the link and share the link out with several groups. And of course, you're welcome to take it and share it as far and wide as you would like to, because this is the kind of stuff that's powerful. This is the kind of stuff that resonates with people. There are lots and lots of people out there that were in your shoes or are in your shoes, or the shoes you used to be in, and they want to get out of those shoes, and they just don't know what to do. But you know, it's one of those things. We don't know what we don't know.
Right. Let me tell you, just to tack on to what you just said. The CDC says that 69% of all North Americans are overweight, and that 40% of them are obese. Do we have an epidemic? Yeah, I think we do.
Yes.
And I have the solution.
Yes. And that's exactly the case too. And it's so exciting to be able to change people's lives that way. It's the most rewarding thing that I've ever been in my whole life. I've never had such a rewarding thing that I'm doing for a living. And there's nothing like having somebody call you up crying, telling you thank you for changing my life. And I've just never found anything more powerful, more rewarding, more fulfilling. And that kind of brings me, because you've already touched on all of the main things at this point that I love to ask people. And I've got my, trick question
Okay.
that I love to introduce. And it's always so cool, the different responses to this question. But you've got somebody that's interested in jumping on board with the Kong family, and with your nutritional system as well. And you know as well as we do that the Kong family part is equally as important, if not more important, than the nutritional side of it, because it just makes everything better. But you've got somebody that's interested and curious or whatever, and you got one thing that you get to say to them, just one. It's going to make or break it. What do you say?
Well, as I said, is the most important thing is what goes in your mouth. And so what people have to understand is that none of this has to be complicated, but you have to consider that 80% of what's going to happen to you over the next year is going to be based on what goes in your mouth. And you have a choice. You can keep putting in the stuff that is not good for you in your mouth, or you can change it. And you can start putting in your mouth what can change everything for you. That's what I'm gonna say. And I said, and by making such a small adjustment, you can then change everything.
That's great. I've got also another question that just came to my mind that I figure you might be a really good person to ask this question to, because you and I both know that one of the biggest obstacles that we face out there when it comes to sharing the magic and the gift that is Kangen water is people always see the expense. Oh, 4,000, 5,000. They see it as an expense instead of an investment. How would you address that? And how do you address that? What do you have to say to people in regards to that?
Well, the thing is that if you look at it as $5,000, and you think, well, that's a lot of money to pay for water, then you have to just help them understand that it's like, you're buying an appliance. You want to cook some food. It might cost you $800 for your stove, but that's not a one-time expense. You're going to use that same stove for the next 15, 20 years. Okay. And so when people, look at this machine, they have to realize that it's designed to last 30 to 35 years. So when you then amortize the cost over that time, you realize that you can't buy bottled water cheaper. It's going to be more expensive to buy a bottled water. And, there's two things that you really don't want to do is you don't want to keep drinking bottled water, because now they've determined that there's so many problems with it in terms of what's in it, including, plastic particles and so on. You just don't want to drink bottled water. And then the other thing is you don't want to drink tap water because you don't want to drink chloride or chlorine and fluoride and, all the other things. All the other things that could be in water. So, what's your health worth? So these are the things that I would point out to people is that, if you want a better quality of water, you really can't get, better water than comes out of our machines, and so it's kind of a mental shift for people. They have to get around the fact that at first, they're thinking like, they're comparing it to, sort of the cost of, buying bottled water, in 1 month. Yeah, but, it's not 1 month worth of bottled water. It's, could be the rest of your life, because at my age, it might be the rest of my life. You know what I mean? When you consider how much, how many years this thing is supposed to last. So, and maintaining it is easy. Some people just don't necessarily maintain their units very well. But even then, the guy that got me involved, he's, I asked him one time on it, how often do you clean your machine? He's got a K8, and he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, how often do you do the cleaning? And he said to me, it's self-cleaning. And this is the 6A that got me involved. And he said, it's self-cleaning. And I go like, oh, dude, I mean, you don't clean it? He says, well, I changed my filter, it's fine. Well, since I got it, I've been doing the proper cleaning and change my filter and on and on. So, my machine is at peak condition all the time. But even if it's not, my point is this, that these machines are almost sort of idiot proof, if you have the top model, because it actually does clean itself. And you know, if you use it, because I've had two friends that I don't think ever cleaned their machine, but they used it till they, you know, they used the initial filter until it was, the machine told them to replace the filter. I've never been at that level. I always change my filter, you know, when I think it needs to be changed. So I've never heard the machine tell me to change the filter, but apparently, you know, I only know this from their experience. If you
Notice a filter replacement.
yeah. That's what they told me. They said the machine says I need a filter. Where do I get a filter? And I said, well, okay, go in your back office and order a filter. And so, but it was funny because I've never heard that, because I replaced mine before it tells me I need to replace it. But yeah, so but if you maintain this machine, it really will last you, 30, 35 years.
You know, I met, along those lines, I met a guy at my very first event that I went to almost about 2 years ago. And I met this old fella who'd had his machine for 35 years. So
oh, really?
At this point, he's had that machine for 37 years. He said it still works just as good today as it worked 35 years ago when I smuggled it in from Japan. So these machines, I always say they're built like a brick shit house. They're designed to last forever. They're made in-house. It's amazing, because I was flabbergasted when I found out that they literally make everything in-house, even the packaging, even the foam, everything that they use to put these things together. They make it all in-house. They don't even sub out one little teeny widget or anything. And it's truly amazing, their quality control, how they build the machines. They have one technician that builds every machine. You know, each machine gets built by one technician from start to finish. He doesn't put this part together and then shuffle it down the assembly line. He friggin' does the whole entire thing all from start to finish. And you can just imagine how that could increase your quality control and make it so that you have a machine that will last. I always tell people, you buy this machine, you're going to have to be figuring out who you're going to will it to when that time comes. And that's what we have here. That's what makes it so incredible and so special. And
so, JJ, in reference to your brick shit house, it kind of does that mean that as far as the dimensions of this thing goes, in the words of Lionel Richie and the Commodores, 36, 24, 36, what a winning hand. She's a brick shit house? Is that what we're talking about? I like to get the funk in there every once in a while there, Voth.
Oh, brother, I love you. I love all the
You're
value.
beautiful. I mean, here I see David Voth coming in, and I'm like, what, we got David Lee Roth? I think Mr. David M. Voth is a little more of a rock star in the Congan world. And yeah, dude, really glad to have you on here. Love hearing stories. Love your candidness. Just, you're a straight shooting cat. I can tell right from here, man. And I just love being able to hear you drop it truthfully and just, express what you got going on. Again, your testimony is amazing. It speaks for itself. I've got a couple people that I've referenced in the late weight loss capacity that have dropped a couple 100 pounds a piece. But you're another one, and I definitely want to be able to share somewhat of I've gathered from your story, because I don't know, I just think that's amazing. And the way you present it, the way you communicate your process, you make it seem a lot easier than you might have initially anticipated, with the right factors involved in the whole process.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just think it's a great story, and I really appreciate you sharing that with me.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, the thing is that a lot of times people don't start because they look at it as being, too big of a challenge. They look at this mountain and they go like, there's no way I can climb that mountain. And so they don't start. But when they encounter me, I can explain to them that you're not going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting to start this. All you have to do is shift what goes in your mouth, because 80% of what happens when you're that kind of weight is what goes in your mouth and not your exercise. And a lot of people fear the exercise component. And I'm not saying the exercise component isn't important, but when you are 300 pounds, it isn't as important as what goes in your mouth, because the very first 100 pounds really comes off by changing what goes in your mouth.
Yeah. Amen. Well, you know, this is every single day. The shows are just so powerful. It's amazing, the incredible people that are out here in the Kong family. And I just love having the gift of being able to talk with them and meet with them and share their stories out. And I know for a fact that people are going to resonate with you, David. And I want to help those people be able to get a hold of you. That's what this is all about. Not only do we want to educate, but we also want to unite. And we want to help people hook up with the right things so that they can change their lives for the better. That's what it's all about. Change your water, change your life. But sometimes you also have to change your thought process. And like you say, change what you put in your mouth.
Right.
And so I want people to be able to hook up with you. And so in closing of this, because we're at an hour now, it's amazing how fast an hour rolls along when you're out about it and learning cool stuff. And so I'd like you now at this point, David, if you don't mind, is give out whatever information you want to give out. Give out the superfood that you're working on, how people can get a hold of you, how you can help them, how you can work with them. How do they get a hold of you? If they don't know how to get a hold of you, they can't get a hold of you, right? So hook them up.
So the best way to get a hold of me, where you get the fastest response, is to text me at this phone number, 281-918-9687. Now, you can also call me on that number. That's fine too. But either text or call me. The other thing is, of course, you know, I'm fairly active on Facebook, and you know, people can just you know, send me a message on Messenger, or they can send me a friend request on Facebook, and I'll respond that way as well. And they can see ongoing updates of what I'm doing there. Really, I guess that's the best. You know, those are the best ways to communicate with me. Is you know, Messenger, or text me at 281-918-9687.
There you go, kids. You know, and another thing I want to just mention to everybody, that if you're going to send David a friend request, you know, do him a little common courtesy. Let him know why. Let him know that you saw him on the Kong Family Show. You know, just tell him why you're sending him a friend request, because Facebook's kind of a weird place, and sometimes it. You know, I get a lot of friend requests that I don't accept.
No picture. Yeah, 2 or 3 mutual friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I want people to let me know. Before I accept friend requests, I always reply back to them and say, why did you send me a friend request? You know, unless I know them. So do people a favor out there, kids, when you're sending friend requests, tell people why. Tell them why. You know, give them a little bit of heads up as to how you found them, and what made you decide that you wanted to try and friend up with them and associate with them. And so, do you have something to add to that, Sean?
No, that's perfect. I was just going to follow that with, do you happen to have a copy of your book or your books available, and maybe a way for people to get their hands on that? Is that something you're marketing at all?
No, they're out of print now. The last edition was published in 2002, and the subject is sort of time sensitive, because sure. I used to be a financial advisor, financial planner, and it was dealing with tax strategies back then. So at the time, it was it was one of the top books in the genre. But you know, you know, currently, you know, because I didn't keep on, I just decided I wanted to do something different. I was sort of, I'd been I'd been in the industry that long that I kind of got weary of it, and so it was a great adventure to write the book, and then to go on a speaking circuit for about 5 years. But once I'd sort of gone through all of that, and then wrote the second book on the subject, and it became a bestseller as well. I just got tired of it. It was just, I was done. You know what I mean? So currently, if somebody really, really wants a copy, I have a digital version on my computer, and I can, I can help them have it. I was selling it as a digital download until about a year ago. But, there just wasn't enough demand to keep on selling it. So.
Well, that's some great stuff, man. And I sure appreciate you coming on the show with us today, David. This is value on Kangen steroids, good, healthy steroids, right? And so that's what we're trying to do here is bring value, bring info, bring hookups, bring something that's going to change people's lives. Because once again, here in the Kong family, we've got this really simple goal. We just want to change the world, and that's what we're doing. We're doing it how, Sean?
One glass of 9.5 at a time.
Amen, baby. One person, one glass, one machine, one relationship at a time. And this has been such an incredible show today, David. Thank you so much for taking your valuable time to come and visit with us. And if you know anybody that you think would have a good story to tell and they would like to come on here and share their story, I'd sure appreciate if you'd recommend. I hope you had fun here today, and I hope it ends up being worthwhile for you. And we're doing this 7 days a week, so always looking for good quality people to come on here, share their stories, and so that we can change the world. That's what it's all about. And with that, thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it, and look forward to having you on again down the road. When you have something cool that you want to come share, reach out, let me know. We definitely would love to hear more stories, and that's what's going to change the world, buddy. And so, as usual, kids, we're just going to change the world. Don't forget your hugs. Don't forget your hugs. Love you guys so much. To everybody out there that's listening live and that's going to be hearing this in the future, we love you so much. That's what it's all about. And thank you very much for your time and for tuning in. And we'll see you next go around on the Kong Family Show.
Giddy up.
Forget your hugs. HooDeeHoooo.
All right, Mr. Voth, God bless you, brother. Thanks for joining us. Continue to do what you do, my man. Look forward to dialing in with you at some event down the line. I know I'm up here in the sticks of the big sky country, but I tend to saddle up my horse every once in a while and head out of here. So next time I do that, I'll look forward to connecting with you in person. Until then, I appreciate reaching out, connecting with you on Facebook. Any level we can be resources for you as well, please allow that, because that's what we do. JJ and I aren't even on the same team, but we have the same goal, the same mission, and that's to bring what we know to the table and start bringing as many people as we know that share that vision to dine with us. And that's what this is all about. So just again, appreciate having a savvy old vet like you on here. I can't thank you enough. Have a great day and rest of the week.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Amen, boys.
All right, gentlemen.
Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Have a great rest of the day.
That's it.